most significant difference made by the career education system?
That's a very good question, and I think if we think of the current labor market, we have to be aware that nowadays we don't choose a career anymore, so we have to be able to change our jobs a number of times throughout our lives. So in a way we are making decisions throughout our life and learning career, and in a way within career education we are able to develop a competence that helps us to identify whether my existing competencies are valid in the current labor market or the future labor market, and if there are drivers of change I can identify what is behind the change and whether I have to learn new things, new competencies, and where to learn. So in a way this is a new competence which can be learned as such.
Thank you. And the second question is, what will be the most applicable form of exam-free semesters that can be imported to Korea?
The word imported is it's a sort of crucial one. We have to be aware that there is not one system model that fits all the countries, because career education is filtered through culture, curriculum development, and also the economic and social development of the country. And that's why if we want to integrate a proper free learning semester, we take into account what is the Korean context, how can we make it as a continuum, so in a way giving the opportunity for the students to learn these skills which they can use later on in education, and also help to train the teachers and all the stakeholders to be aware what is the importance and added value of the free learning semester. Dr. Lee, dear colleagues, good morning. And first I want to thank for the invitation to participate in this very important conference and forum, and also I want to thank for the forum for integrating career education and the development of career management skills as part of the conference themes. Because yesterday we heard during the plenary session that nowadays young people change their careers more than one time during their life, so we are choosing careers, let's say 3-4 times before we have the retirement. And in the previous session we also heard that the career management skills is one of the key competencies which we need at the labor market at the moment. So today I will be focusing on career education and the definition of career management skills and how this can be integrated into education and in curriculum. And then I'm also highlighting some of the outcomes of career education and guidance based on the international cooperation, and then also describing some features and practices, or good examples of policies and practices in the field. And I will be referring in my speech to the work which we conducted in European Union during the last 10 years. More than 30 countries were examining their guidance policies, both in education and labor market context, and sharing experiences and developing common, let's say, common reference points which we can use for mutual learning. And these publications are available on the network website, and I will be referring to these in my presentation. What we found out during the last 10 years was that more and more countries are integrating career education to their curriculum. And we came to a conclusion or definition that within the network we agreed that career education can be defined as a range of structured programs and activities which help students to link their learning to the acquisition of career management skills and also employability skills. And then what do we mean by the employability skills? The career management skills, it's a range of competencies that helps individuals and groups to gather information about themselves, but also about the educational opportunities and labor market opportunities, and based on this information to make well-informed and well-thought-through plans and decisions and also implement them. It means that what do I have to know in order to make these decisions, and what happens if I take this direction, or what might happen if I take this type of direction. And later, if I'm employed or self-employed, I can read the signals which are drivers for change in the labor market, and based on this information I can evaluate whether I have to upgrade my skills or whether I need new competencies. And this is a skill which is necessary both as employed or as self-employed. So it relates also to the entrepreneurial skills. And it's a skill which can be learned. And there are different ways how countries are integrating this into education. It can be a separate subject. It can be a transversal theme which is integrated to all subjects. It can be embedded, or some countries have chosen the opportunity or the option that they have external centers which provide information and support for students. The free learning semester is an example of integration of this within the curriculum, which the Korea has done, and also I'm now focusing on Finland, my home country, and we have had careers education within the curriculum now about 45 years since the reform which we had in 1970. And within the reform, we established a 9-year comprehensive education, and later in the 80s, 3-year upper secondary level education, which can be general education or vocational education. But at the moment, we have careers education as a compulsory subject within curriculum. Within grades 1 to 6, it's integrated, but within the grades 7 to 9, there is altogether 76 hours timetable, a subject in student timetable, a time allocation for this purpose. It's like a subject, but it's not graded like subject, so it's an opportunity for the students to have time allocated for career development. And on top of this, the students can have 2 weeks practical work experience in real workplaces before they make their choice for upper secondary level education. And this guidance is delivered by all staff members, but specifically in each school we have a qualified career practitioner or school counselor which has a master degree or 60 ECTS postgraduate diploma. And at the moment the ratio is the average that we have about 300 students for one qualified school counselor in comprehensive education. And the content of the career education is defined by National Board of Education. We have a national core curricula which gives the guidelines, but we do have a local implementation. And we have just recently revised the core curricula, and it was revised 2014 and implemented this year in August. And based on this core curricula, the schools are required to provide an institutional plan how they are implementing and adopting the national core curricula in a local networked context. And this means that the schools, as part of their institutional curriculum, have a strategic and operational plan for the guidance provision. It includes the description what is the cooperation with parents and guardians, also how they cooperate with enterprises and companies within this practical work experience, which normally takes place at 8th grade. And we do provide online support for the school for this purpose. Schools have to evaluate this implementation of a program, and we created national quality criteria for the guidance 2 years ago. And it means that we are having a holistic approach, taking into account the personal development of the students and the age level. And the program is delivered, as I mentioned already, by all staff members, but within the school curricula, school curriculum or the plan, we are positioning guidance. So we are having a description of guidance before all the school subjects. So it's an overall goal, overarching umbrella goal of the other school subjects. So what is the active citizenship, and what are the employability skills that the students learn, and how do all the other subjects contribute to this overall goal in addition to the career education program. So in some cases, career guidance has been integrated on top of the other school subject, like a glue or band-aid if something goes wrong. But we wanted to have this preventive measure or preventive approach that it's general support and mainstream service for the students before anything happens. And it's a cost-effective way to meet the whole age cohort as a preventive measure. And that is why we have the a description of responsibilities integrated or included within the overall school plan. And it also must describe the multi-professional cooperation, so how the school counselors work or career teachers work with other teachers, youth workers or social workers or school nurses. So in a way, as I mentioned, we are positioning career education within the school activities. And what are the overall goals? Like in many countries, we have the 3 goals. We are focusing on the personal growth and development, but also we are helping the students to evaluate their study skills and social skills. And this is a basis for lifelong career management skills. And we are also introducing the use of information and communication technology as a compulsory element. Because when school students graduate, they know where to find this educational labor market information, but also they learn how to evaluate the existing information what is available on the internet. And when they are using social media, they are communicating with each other and they are looking for jobs or getting career-related information and processing their own future with or without the help of the teachers or other practitioners. So in a way, how they are co-constructing the information and their future using the social media. So this is, that's why it's part of the career education program as well. And if I look at the elements of the free learning semester in Korea, it has the same type of goals, although it might be slightly younger students which are engaged in these activities, and it's a sort of very intensive period during the one semester, but it can be a basis for longer development if it's linked within the long-term planning and also the continuum of the career management skills, as I mentioned. So it provides the student an opportunity to deepen the knowledge of the labor market in practice, on the trends, and also identify emerging competence areas and skill shortages. It provides opportunity to test the entrepreneurship or spirit of entrepreneurship, and it's also an opportunity to learn job searching skills in practice. As I mentioned, in Finland we have these 2 weeks when students go to the workplaces. They are practicing the real skills which they need when they are looking for a job, and then they are testing and looking what are the competencies needed in those workplaces and how they can share their experience among their peers. So in a way, this provides an opportunity for future career plans, but it's also a measure to promote the commitment in studies. And we have collected evidence that this does matter. Within the European Lifelong Guidance Policy Network, we collected research within the European Union member countries, Asian countries, United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and we found out about 140 studies which showed that the beneficiaries of career education are individuals, but also the organizations that provide services benefit from career education, and also the society. And we have learning outcomes, economic outcomes, and also long-term social outcomes. And we found out that on an individual level, we learn these skills, which helps us to navigate in the labor market. But also, if schools provide well-organized career services, the students who reflect why they are learning certain subjects, they are more likely to graduate faster. So we have lower dropout rates if we have a guidance or career education as a preventive measure. But on the other hand, it gives opportunity to get skilled labor force. So the companies have a channel which they can use when they are informing the students what are the opportunities in the labor market, but also the students can then get information what is available there, what might be the future like. So in a way, we can look at career education from more than one angle. So it's private good, but it's also public good. And based on this research, what we found, or what we conducted, we found out that career education is most effective if it includes these 10 principles. It's lifelong, it's progressive, so it's cumulating. It connects the individual lives to wider context. It recognizes the diverse readiness of individuals and also provides services which are meeting their needs. So in a way, it's a mainstream services, but we have students who have more, let's say, more serious questions, so we can have more customized and more individualized services. So we can combine range of interventions. As we do in Finland, we have one-to-one guidance, group guidance, classroom activities, workplace visits, projects, and so on. So we can integrate a number of working methodology which can be applied in other subjects as well. And as I mentioned, we are not focusing on problems, not only we have to help the students to solve them, but we are focusing on the planning skills which are needed. And we are aware that guidance as such doesn't create jobs, but it can help the individuals when they are having transition to a labor market. So in a way, it's a part of a social contract as well. So we can't give the responsibility to the individuals only. And it's effective if we engage employers and working people, and we provide concrete experience in workplaces. And we take into account that we have to train the teachers, but also those teachers who are specialized in career education, we need to provide initial and in-service training for the teachers as well. And we take into account that we pay attention to quality career information, education information, and also develop the labor market information and the trends in such format it can be used in career education. And also, it's quality assured and evaluated. And CRIVET is an example that pays attention and conducts research on the implementation of the free learning semester. So that's an example of the investment which the Korean government has done to this purpose. To conclude, based on international cooperation and the findings of the research, we can conclude that there is an emerging political consensus at international level that guidance and counseling and career education are seen as key strategic components for implementing lifelong learning and employment strategies at regional and also national levels. Well-organized career education, it acts a link between school, community, and working life. It's a part of a social contract. This progress can be enhanced if governments and local authorities investment on systems that support this policy development. It can be a national forum, like an outcome of our work in Europe is that most of the European countries have a governmentally level forum that sort of shares information between government sectors on the development of guidance policies. So it means it requires cooperation between ministries who are in charge of guidance policies. And the first step would be that if we want to promote coherent career management skills strategy, we invite the key stakeholders to discuss what do we mean by career management skills in different settings, in education, secondary level education, higher education, adult learning, but also in aging population, as we heard in the previous session. So in a way, agreeing how can this be developed as a continuum, who is in charge of it, and how it can be sort of promoted as an explicit competence. And the final comment is that, as I mentioned, based on this cooperation, we can state that well-functioning career education and counseling system, perhaps the free learning semester in Korea, will be an indicator of well-functioning and efficient national education system. Thank you for your attention. Kamsahamnida.
Good morning, everybody, and you now hear English spoken with an Irish accent, so I hope you can understand from what you're normally used to. My name is John McCarthy, and I'm honoured to be invited to participate in this forum, and in particular in this session. But I want to start by saying that I'm dedicating my presentation to Liz Seiss, from Houston in Texas, who is here in the room. She's a high school student She's doing work shadowing on her mother, who is presenting at this forum. And this is really for her and for other high school students. I'm not sure if there are other high school students here, because we're talking about something for them as opposed to something for us, right? And it's dedicated to high school students in Korea and in Ireland. So I'm going to, my presentation is going to cover, let me see how this works here. I'm going to look briefly at the aims of the high school education in Ireland and in Korea. We're going to do a little comparative look at the two, and we're going to look and to see how they link to the kinds of skills that the experts on the labour force were talking about yesterday. I'm going to briefly describe the transition year programme in Ireland, which tries to address some of these the skills required for job participation and job performance. And I'm going to look at some of the evidence from the evaluation of the transition year programme in Ireland, which in a way has inspired the free learning semester here in Korea, and to see what kind of lessons maybe we have learned that could be important for the free learning semester in Korea. So if we look at the aims of higher education in Ireland and Korea, which, the aims of high school education, we see they're actually somewhat similar. We both mention the knowledge and skills to prepare people for jobs needed in society, immediate entry into the workforce. And in fact, in Korea, it's even more specific when they talk about student autonomy, emotional development, critical thinking abilities, right? But that's what the aims are. What's the actual practice? And if we look at the practice, and you can correct some of the facts that I have here, right? Because I just Googled them. So what happens in practice? Well, what we hear from Korea is that there's an awful lot of rote learning it takes place in schools, that it's more teacher-centered learning than student-centered learning, and that there's a huge focus on examination results. And if we look then, the school year here in Korea for high schools, 220 days, all right? And the normal work week is 45 hours in school, but most students do a lot more than that, so the estimated figures are somewhere between 60 and 90 hours. And if you look in the PISA ranking, well, it's bound to have an effect. So you're third in the PISA ranking, the OECD International Student Assessment. If you look in Ireland, well, the teenagers in Ireland have a much happier school life. All right? They only do 180 school days a year. They only work 28 hours a week in school. And they're ranked 15th in the PISA assessment. We're not complaining. We're still in the top half among the OECD and the other countries that are involved in this. And we're not worried about that, because we think it's still a reasonably good effort for the amount of time the students put in. And that raises a question then about, what's the whole purpose of education? Is it learning for life, or is it learning for exam results? Or is it some kind of a combination between the two? And how does it get started? And so if we look at if you were at all of the sessions yesterday, you will have learned that the experts from the labour market, the representatives of large companies, they listed out a whole range of skills that people need in order to perform and participate in the workforce of the 21st century. And look at them: teamwork, curiosity, communication, networking, the ability to fail. Does anybody teach that here in Korea? The ability to fail. Taking initiative, ability to adapt. And again, in the afternoon session, it was similar sets of skills. So we then have to look and to listen to what did they say about the labour market itself. They said there's great labour market uncertainty into the future. They talked about destructive creativity, about the increasing pace of innovation, so there's need for constant upskilling, disruptive, fast-moving business models, risks in work, insecurities, and so on. So the question we have to ask ourselves is the practice of high school education in Korea and the practice of high school education in Ireland fit for purpose? How does it match the needs of the labour market? And how, in essence, do the high schools in Korea and in Ireland provide young people with the skills that they need to participate in the workforce? And if you were listening to Professor Langer yesterday, she talked about mindful and mindlessness. And I think when you look at the aims of education and the practice of education, sometimes you have to be forgiven for thinking that the education system is mindless because it doesn't seem to pay any attention to what its original aims have been. Now, having said that, I'm going to briefly describe the transition year program in Ireland. It was established for people of around grade 10. In fact, it is grade 10 in Ireland. Right. At the end of the 3 years, at the end of the 9th year, we have a state examination, a national examination. And at the end of the 12th grade, we have a national examination. So in Ireland too, we are exams focused. But how is it then that the Irish government decides that in order to fulfill the aims of high school education, we need, in fact, a year off, a whole year, not a semester, a whole year, all right? And so that really requires some kind of thinking. And when you listened yesterday to Brian Cohen, the former Prime Minister of Ireland, talking about the competitiveness of the Irish economy and the young people as being a huge resource in the economy, then you have to say, well, if the Irish can take a year off in year 10 or in grade 10, then they must be doing something intelligent. You know, they can't be stupid, all right? And when you look at the OECD results, you see the Ireland still work out at the 15th in the 15th rank of the international comparisons. So essentially, it's a year to reflect, relax, and renew in an atmosphere free from the pressure of national examinations. And that's the kind of terms that I hear also from the free learning semester. We're there a long time. We started this back in 1974. We tested it in pilot schools over a number of years. And it wasn't until the mid-1980s and the early 1990s that we mainstreamed it to all schools. And so most pupils will take this. Not all, because parents still have a right to say, I prefer my child to go straight from grade 9 into grade 11, all right? But most parents take the other view because it has shown over time and been researched over time that it is really a huge advantage to our young people in a whole lot of different ways that I'll describe subsequently. So, as different from the free learning semester, which focuses around careers education, we actually use this year for subject tasting or subject sampling. So, for example, students will taste a lot of different subjects that they have never done before and that they may subsequently do in grades 11 and grades 12. And I'll give you a personal example. My son, when he was age 15, right, in the Irish education system, he wanted to become an art teacher at the end of grade 9. Now, he didn't have any great skill in art, and I think actually he was in love with the art teacher. And so for him, this is what his aim was. And so I kind of said, but you're not really very creative and you're not really have natural skill in art. And the more I said it, the more he wanted to become an art teacher. So as the father that I was, I relaxed and I said, the more I push, the more he goes against. In the course of the transition year, he tasted or he sampled economics. And he loves it. So much so that he went through university doing economics, and he now works in the central bank, the government bank in Ireland, as an economist. So if he hadn't discovered economics, he now might be a very unhappy art teacher in a school. So it's not only about should I say, about the career exploration. It's also about subject and a broad educational way to look at what are the kind of knowledge and skills that we require to be in the society in which we live and to be in the global world in which we live. All right, so it's much broader than just the career side. And if you look, all right, if you look at the programs that they do, they sample a lot of different subjects, all right? But they also have a lot of out-of-school work, like community service. Community service is helping people who are disadvantaged or disabled in society, working with different organizations. So it's learning something about civic responsibility, right? So it's a broader concept entirely than just saying, well, I'm going to learn about a job or learn about work. All right? We're going to learn other things as well. And so we're trying to look at the education of the whole person, all right, in this particular year. And again, in terms of the kinds of learning activities, very different from what they had experienced up to then in the high school and what they would experience subsequently. And I'll talk a little bit more about this. If you look at the aims of the Transition Year programme, we talk about personal maturity, career maturity, social awareness, social competence. So you're talking about a greater development of the general aims of higher education. And so each school, we have national guidelines, but each school has the freedom to shape its own programme. And so it's a whole school activity. What we would say in Ireland is that it was the most radical change ever to the Irish education system, because for once the teachers became responsible for curriculum development. Instead of teaching a curriculum and subjects that were prepared by experts somewhere else, they had to develop it themselves. They truly became professionals, and it gave them a great freedom. Now, believe me, they were scared. They were scared because they were used to doing what they were doing all the way along, which was, taking the subject that was prepared by somebody else and teaching it. And this time, they had to develop its content and its methodology. But it also gave a marvelous chance for creativity, and it has really worked very, 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 very well. And it is it's not only about the content, but it's also about the way learning is delivered. Active learning, discovery learning, negotiated learning. So, and it's not only the teachers who develop these modules, because we have many national associations in the civic and social and economic spheres who developed short taster learning modules for the transition year programs. So in fact, nationally, you have many different sectors of society who are contributing modules, and they say, could you please teach this in school, and we will help you, we'll give you materials, we will support it. Because they all see this in terms of stakeholder involvement. It's a much broader concept than just very narrow. When we look at the academic performance of these students using control and experimental group methods, we discover, in fact, that people who did transition year achieved much better than the people who didn't do transition year. So I'm just saying that when you look, there's also an impact, a down the road impact in terms of academics, which is the kind of fear here that they have with the free learning semester, because for only one semester they're involved in doing something slightly different than what they have been doing up to now. Parents are scared, their exam results aren't going to be good. Well, the research that we have shows completely the opposite. I mean, students become really good learners. They'll begin to love to learn as opposed to the drudgery of learning. So there are a lot of these slides, and I'm going to finish just with lessons for the free learning semester and career. So what are the key factors for success? You have to have a support service, a national support service, to help the professional development of the teachers, all right, and to help in the materials development. You also in Ireland had a transition year teacher professional network that all the teachers involved in the transition year developed their own organisation, association, so that they support each other because they learn from each other. It's like a huge learning laboratory, and most of the learning comes from the practice. We have school partnerships. We have stakeholder involvement, especially community and employer support and partnerships. Experiential learning is really a key one, because if the learning methodology stays the same, there's no change, and there's no advantage, and there's no skills learning for the 21st century. The development of learning modules by associations, organisations, and agencies. So it becomes a community, and it becomes a national focus. A training for school management, initial training of teachers. That needs to take, it's not only continuous professional development. And I would say, and this is finally, to say that what you have here in Korea in the free learning semester, it's very new. It's hardly 3 years old. Talk about a 3-year-old child. I mean, what do you expect a 3-year-old child to be able to do? I know my time is up. But I'm just saying, what do you expect a 3-year-old? It can't. And so it needs time. And there has to be continuity in policy, and not only continuity, but development in policy, right? It has to go beyond where it is. What I would say is here in Korea, you have a good start, but in my mind, it's not radical enough. Not radical enough at all, because when you compare what the employers were saying yesterday to the aims of your education system and to the actual practice of the high school education system, there's a huge gap between the two as it stands. And my final comment is that perhaps it's better suited to grade 10 and would take over the place of grade 10 rather than to be where it is at the moment. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm sorry for running over time. Thank you.
네, 반갑습니다. 네, 이제는 영어 알아두시려고 긴장 안 하셔도 되고 좀 편안하게 들으시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 네, 먼저 저도 이 포럼에 이렇게 초대가 돼서 발표를 할 수 있는 기회를 갖게 돼서 너무 영광이고요. 근데 사실은 이 주제를 받고 제가 준비를 하면서 사실 가장 고민했던 거는 자유학기를 어떻게 번역해야 되나 하는 거였습니다. 그래서 여러 가지를 찾아봤더니 어떤 곳은 free semester라고 하기도 하고 어떤 데는 free learning semester, 그리고 교육부에서는 examination free semester라고 하더라고요. 그래서 근데 그 어떤 것도 마음에 딱 들지는 않았습니다. 사실 free라는 말이 공짜라는 말도 있어서 네, free semester 했을 때 공짜로 학교 다니는 학기, 물론 그거는 아니기 때문에 그래서 고민하다가 그래, 이제는 외국 분들도 한국 사람들이 free learning semester를 어떻게 말하고 있는가, 어떻게 부르고 있는가 배우실 필요도 있겠다 싶어서 저기에다가 자유 세메스터라고 썼습니다. 네, 그 제목을 보시면 제가 necessary waste of time이라고 해서 시간 낭비가 필요한 것이다. 글쎄요, 제가 사실은 이 내용을 어떻게 구성할까 하다가 많은 사람들이 자유학기제에 대해서 시간 낭비다라는 비난을 사실은 하고 있고 또 그런 이야기들이 많이 들리고 있는데 오히려 반대로 시간 낭비라고 하는 것이 우리에게 또한 필요한 부분이 아닐까라는 부분으로 접근을 좀 해보고자 했습니다. 먼저 교육부에서 이 자유학기제라고 하는 것을 디자인하면서 이런 목적을 세웠습니다. 일단은 중학교 학생들에게 자기의 꿈과 끼를 조금 더 탐색할 수 있도록 도와주는 그런 시간을 갖도록 도와주자. 그런데 그 자유학기제 동안에 한 학기 내내 꿈과 끼만을 찾는 그런 진로교육만 하는 그런 시간이 아니라 사실은 그 한 학기 동안 교육의 방식을 티칭 위주의 방식이 아니라 경험 위주의 방식으로 전환해서 그 경험을 통해서 학생들이 자신을 돌아보고 자신의 꿈과 목표를 생각해 볼 수 있는 그런 기회를 갖도록 도와주자 하는 것이 교육부의 목표였던 것 같습니다. 그래서 이 자유학기제라고 하는 것을 조금 더 좀 깊게 생각을 해보면 일단 자유라는 말 그 자체가 그러니까 여기서 freedom이라고 하는 말입니다. 그러면 이 자유라고 하는 것 누가 도대체 자유를 갖는 것이고 도대체 뭐가 자유로워진다는 말일까라고 생각해 봤을 때 첫 번째는 학교의 선생님들께서 그동안에는 그 국가에서 정한 교육 과정에 따라서 어떤 교육 과정들을 만들고 교육 내용들을 만들어야 했다면 이 자유학기제 동안만은 선생님들이 조금 더 자유로움을 가지고 자신들만의 조금 더 창의적인 그런 교과 과정을 교육 내용과 교과 과정을 만들어서 학생들과 함께 조금 더 경험 위주의 교육을 할 수 있도록 하는 그런 기회를 갖도록 하자라고 하는 의미가 들어있다라는 생각이 들었습니다. 그러면 학생의 측면에서는 어떤가? 교사도 자유로움을 갖지만 학생들도 그동안 가졌던 여러 가지 학업적인 부담이라던가 여러 가지 어려움들을 조금 내려놓고 조금 자유롭게 자신이 무엇을 좋아하는지 무엇을 하고 싶은지 이런 것들을 좀 탐색할 수 있는 생각할 수 있는 그런 기회를 갖도록 하자 하는 것이 이 자유학기제의 기본적인 취지가 아닌가라는 생각을 하게 됩니다. 그런데 사실은 아까도 말씀드렸지만 이 자유학기제가 시작이 되면서 사실 많은 그 비판들이 있어 왔습니다. 그래서 제가 거기에 Korean Mother A라고 적었지만 어떤 분이 하셨는지는 모르겠고요. 제가 신문이든 다양한 그 매체나 그 다음에 연구들을 통해서 도대체 자유학기제에 대해서 어떤 비판들이 있는가라고 하는 것을 찾아봤을 때 첫 번째는 자유학기제를 실시하게 되면 오히려 사교육비가 올라갈 것이다 라고 하는 비판이 있습니다. 그러니까 자유학기제 동안에 학업이 아마도 부모님들에게 있어서 자유학기제 동안은 학업이 중단되는 것 같은 그렇게 보이는 것 같고 그러다 보면 그 중단되어진 어떤 학업들을 보충하기 위한 사교육비를 더 많이 사용하게 될 것이다 라고 하는 것이 첫 번째 비판입니다. 그 다음에 또 다른 비판은 자유학기제 아까도 얘기했지만 학업의 양이 아무래도 다른 학기에보다는 적기 때문에 이 적은 학업량으로 인해서 오히려 아이들의 학업 수준이 떨어지게 될 것이다 라고 하는 것이 또 다른 비판입니다. 그 다음에 또 하나 가지고 있는 것은 자유학기제 한 학기 해가지고 애들이 자기 꿈 찾을 수 있어? 라고 하는 것이 사실은 많은 사람들이 가지고 있는 생각입니다. 그러니까 한 학기 동안 무엇을 한다고 해서 나의 꿈과 끼를 찾고 그래서 미래를 설계할 수 있다면 사실 얼마나 좋을까? 그런데 사실 한 학기 동안 집중적으로 한다고 해서 나의 미래가 그렇게 쉽게 찾아지는 것은 아니다 라고 하는 것이 또 다른 비판인 거죠. 그 다음에 전문가들은 이렇게 이야기합니다. 자유학기제 좋다. 교육부에서 이야기하는 거 동의할 수 있어. 그런데 우리가 그 자유학기제를 할 만큼의 자원이 있는가? 프로그램은 개발이 되어 있는가? 우리한테 자유학기제 하려는데 도대체 뭘 해야 되는가? 라고 하는 뭐라 그럴까요? 우리가 할 수 있는 것이 아직 준비되어 있지 않다라고 하는 것에 대한 어떤 비난, 비판 이런 것들이 있어 왔죠. 그래서 이렇게 얘기합니다. It's a waste of time. 결국 시간 낭비야. 그 시간에 아이들로 하여금 꿈을 찾게 한다고 학업의 양을 줄이고 그리고 경험 위주의 수업을 하고 여러 가지 직업 체험을 하게 하고 한다고 하지만 글쎄 그걸로 인해서 효과가 나타날까? 라고 하는 waste of time이다. 시간 낭비다. 라고 하는 비판이 사실은 지금까지 많이 있어 왔습니다. 그런데 과연 그러면 정말 이것이 시간 낭비인 것일까? 라고 하는 것에 대해서 한번 생각을 해봤습니다. 먼저는 이론적으로 봤었을 때 진로 심리학자들이 이렇게 이야기하고 있습니다. 진로는 발달이다. 발달이라고 하는 것은 단계가 있어서 그 단계를 거쳐 나가야만 반드시 다음 단계를 넘어갈 수 있는데, 그렇다면은 진로도 발달이라면 어렸을 때 성취해야 되는 어떤 진로 발달 과업들을 제대로 성취하지 못하면 다음 단계로 넘어갈 수 없다는 겁니다. 그렇다면 생각해 볼까요? 어린 아이가 태어났습니다. 혼자 할 수 있는 거라고는 누워 있고 울고 먹고 싸고 하는 것밖에 없습니다. 그런데 일반적으로는 어떻게 발달하냐 하면 누워 있던 아이가 이제 뒤집고 그리고 기다가 잡고 일어서고 걷게 됩니다. 그런데 어떤 아이가 누워 있다가 엄마, 아무래도 내 삶이 이렇게 돼서는 안 될 것 같아. 내일부터 엄마 걸어볼게 라고 걸을 수 있는 아이는 아무도 없다는 겁니다. 다시 말해서 진로도 발달이라면 반드시 어렸을 때 거쳐야 하는 발달 과업이 있고 그걸 성취해야 하는데, 그 발달 과업이 무엇이냐? 여기에 나와 있는 긴스버그라고 하는 학자와 수퍼라고 하는 학자가 무엇이라고 하냐면, 학생들이 자기가 누구인지 그리고 자기가 어떤 것을 해야 하는지, 내가 그 학교를 졸업하고 직업의 세계에 나갔을 때 어떤 직업이 과연 있는지 이런 것들을 탐색하는 시기를 갖지 않는다면 선택의 단계로 나아갈 수 없다라고 하는 것이 진로심리학에서 이야기하는 이론들입니다. 그렇다면 이 자유학기제를 통하여서 학생들이 자기를 탐색하고 직업에 대해서 탐색하는 시간을 갖는 것이 너무나 중요하다라고 하는 것을 이야기하는 거죠. 그렇다면 이게 정말 이론적으로 봤었을 때 자유학기제가 시간 낭비이냐, 다시 생각해 볼 수 있다는 겁니다. 그 다음에 크롬볼츠라고 하는 학자는 이렇게 이야기하고 있습니다. 많은 사람들이 내가 진로를 결정하지 못하면 내가 뭘 해야 좋을지 모르는데 어떻게 준비를 하겠느냐라는 이야기를 합니다. 그렇지만 크롬볼츠는 아직 결정이 안 되었다 할지라도 내가 지금 할 수 있는 것을 준비하고 훈련하는 것이 필요하다. 그건 결코 시간 낭비가 아니라 투자다라고 이야기하고 있습니다. 그렇다면 중학생들이 아무것도 결정이 되어 있지 않다 할지라도 무언가를 경험하고 준비한다라고 하는 것은 그것은 시간 낭비가 아니라 투자다라고 이야기할 수 있는 거죠. 그 다음에 또 경험적으로 봤을 때 많은 연구들이, 아직은 자유학기제가 이제 시작된 지 얼마 안 돼서 정말 수많은 연구가 있는 것은 아니지만 제가 찾아본 바에 따르면 여러 연구들이 자유학기제에 참여했던 학생들이 진로 발달 수준이나 진로 탐색 행동이나 또는 진로의 적응력이나 또는 자기주도 학습 능력이나 그다음에 행복도, 이런 것들이 높다라고 하는 것을 보고하고 있습니다. 그래서 로댕이라고 하는 학자가 아니죠. 네, 조각가가 그런 이야기를 했습니다. 우리가 어떤 것을, 경험을 현명하게 사용한다면 그 어떤 것도 낭비가 될 수는 없다. 그렇다면 우리가 이 자유학기제를 어떻게 현명하게 사용할 수 있을 것인가, 그 부분에 대해서 한번 좀 생각해 보도록 하고자 합니다. 첫 번째는 이 자유학기제라고 하는 것이 사실은 다른 전체 교육과정과 함께 연결이 되어야 하는 그런 그 연결성을 가질 필요가 있다라고 보여집니다. 앞에서 발표하신 두 분께서도 계속해서 말씀하신 건 진로교육이라고 하는 것은 전체 교육과 하나가 되어야 하는 것이지 진로교육이 따로 있고 교육과정이 따로 있는 것이 아니다라고 이야기를 하고 있습니다. 그래서 이 자유학기제라고 하는 것이 다른 학년에서의 진로교육과도 연결되어져야 한다라는 겁니다. 그런데 지금 보시면 사실은 이 자유학기제가 굉장히 동떨어져 있는 섬처럼 보입니다. 학생들은 공부만 하다가 자유학기제에 들어가서 갑자기 지금과는 다른 무언가를 배우게 되고, 그리고 자유학기제가 끝나면 다시 이전으로 돌아갑니다. 그랬을 때 이 연결성이 보장이 되지 않았을 때 학생들은 어떻게 보면은 오히려 이 자유학기제에서의 많은 경험들을 활용하지 못하고 그냥 낭비해버리게 되는 그런 결과가 되는 것이죠. 그래서 예를 든다면 전체적인 어떤 교육, 진로 교육이 초등학교에서부터 고등학교 때까지 어떻게 이루어져야 하는가, 그 과정에 대한 전체적인 그림을 우리가 가질 필요가 있고, 그리고 각각의 개인의 학생들이 자유학기제를 마쳤을 때 그 진로 교육의 전체 과정 중에서 어디에 지금 위치해 있는가 자신을 평가해 볼 수 있도록 도와주고, 그래서 자유학기제를 마쳤을 때 다음 학년으로 넘어가서 이제 어떤 준비를 해나가야 하는지를 학생들이 알 수 있도록 도와주는 것. 그래서 자유학기제에서의 경험이 이후에도 계속해서 활용될 수 있도록 하는 것이 필요하다라고 생각을 합니다. 그 다음에 두 번째는 선생님들의 어떤 진로 교육의 역량을 키우는 것, 향상시키는 것이 필요한 부분이다라고 생각을 합니다. 사실은 저희가 일반적으로 생각하듯이 교사의 역량이 학생의 어떤 발달 수준이라던가 학생의 역량과 굉장히 밀접하게 관련이 있다고 우리는 생각을 합니다. 교사가 진로 교육에 대해서 훨씬 더 최근에 업데이트된 진로 교육에 대한 지식들을 가지고 있고, 그래서 새로운 것들을 학생들과 함께 해나갈 수 있다면 사실은 훨씬 더 효과적인 진로 교육이 학교에서 이루어질 수 있을 것이다 라고 보는 겁니다. 그래서 계속해서 교사들이 자신의 역량을 키워나갈 수 있도록 도와줄 수 있는 그런 시스템을 마련하는 것이 필요하다라고 생각합니다. 그래서 몇 가지 제가 이야기할 수 있는 것들, 제가 가지고 있는 개인적인 생각은, 일단은 선생님들이 계속해서 교육을 받으실 수 있도록 도와줄 수 있는 그런 기회를 제공하는 것이 많이 필요하다. 현재 지금 거의 99%의 중고등학교에 진로진학 상담 교사가 배치가 되어 있습니다. 그분들이 600시간의 교육을 거쳐서 진로진학 상담 전문가로서, 교사로서 학교에 배치되어 있지만, 그러나 시간이 지나면 또한 그 이전에 받았던 교육이 과연 지금 이 시점에도 맞는 것이냐라고 하는 것에 있어서는 저희가 질문을 해볼 수 있습니다. 그래서 새로운 교육을 계속해서 할 수 있도록 도와주는 것이 필요할 것입니다. 특히나 진로 교육에 대한 조금 새로운 관점들을 갖도록 도와주는 것이 필요하지 않을까 싶습니다. 지금 진로 학교에서 이루어지고 있는 대부분의 진로 교육에서 강조하고 있는 것은 직업의 선택입니다. 너 뭐 하고 싶어? 너 하고 싶은 거 빨리 결정해야 돼. 빨리 결정해야 네가 준비하지. 그래서 대학 가는 것도 도움이 되는 거야. 결정이라고 강조하고 있지만, 사실 최근에 진로심리학에서 강조하고 있는 것은 결정이 아니라 준비입니다. 왜냐하면 이 결정이라고 하는 것은 얼마든지 이후에 바뀔 수 있고, 이 시대가 너무나 빠르게 변화하고 있기 때문에 선택보다는 준비되어 있는 사람이 때에 맞춰서 선택할 수 있기 때문인 겁니다. 또 하나, 우리는 학교에서 아이들에게 이렇게 가르칩니다. 너 잘하는 거 뭐야? 찾아봐. 네가 가지고 있는 것을 찾으라고 합니다. 그런데 아이들은 이렇게 대답합니다. 전 잘하는 게 없어요. 저는 무엇을 해야 좋을지 모르겠습니다. 그렇다면 네가 가지고 있는 것을 찾는 것이 아니라 네가 가질 수 있는 것을 개발하는 것이 어떻게 보면 학생들에게 더 중요한 관점이 될 수도 있습니다. 그러니까 지금까지는 내가 가진 것을 확인해서 그걸 선택하는 것에 초점을 뒀다면, 이제는 그것이 아니라 미래를 준비하는 발전의 과정, 개발의 과정들을 준비시킬 수 있도록 하는 것이 어떻게 보면 지금 진로교육에서 더 중요한 부분이 아닐까. 그래서 선생님들이 진로교육에 대해서 지속적으로 논의하고, 도대체 우리나라에서의 진로교육은 어떻게 이루어져야 하는가 하는 것에 대한 논의들이 많이 이루어져야 된다고 봅니다. 마지막으로 부모님의 참여가 정말 필요하다고 봅니다. 그 아일랜드에서 시행하고 있는 Transitioning Year에 대한 연구에서도 보면, 부모님이 함께 참여했을 때 훨씬 더 부모와 자녀의 관계가 향상이 되고, 그리고 진로 선택이 훨씬 더 성공적이었다라는 연구 결과들이 있습니다. 그리고 외국의 연구들에서도 보면 지속적으로 부모님이 자녀의 진로 교육에 참여하고 부모와 대화했을 때 그 자녀들의 진로 발달이 훨씬 더 건강하게 잘 이루어진다라고 하는 연구 결과들이 있습니다. 그런 것으로 봤을 때 일단 먼저는 부모님들에게 자녀의 진로 교육이 정말 필요하고 중요하다라고 하는 것을 가르쳐 줄 필요가 있다고 생각이 듭니다. 많은 부모님들이 이렇게 이야기하십니다. 아유, 우리 아들 아직 초등학생인데 뭐 아무것도 걔는 몰라요. 나중에 가면 다 알아서 결정하겠지. 라고 하지만 사실은 진로 교육이 가정에서부터 이루어지는 것이 얼마나 중요한 것인지, 그리고 가정에서 진로 교육이 이루어졌을 때 그것의 효과가 어떤 것인지를 알 수 있도록 부모님들에게 알려드리는 것이 필요하다라는 거죠. 그리고 학교에서 이루어지는 다양한 진로 교육 활동에 부모님들이 참여하실 수 있도록 도와드리는 것. 그 다음에 또 하나 제가 5-minute homework이라고 해놨는데요. 사실은 캐나다의 영이라고 하는 학자가 연구한 부분인데 하루에 딱 5분 정도만 아이들과 진로에 대해서 이야기한 가정의 경우 아이들의 진로 발달이 굉장히 잘 이루어졌다라고 하는 연구 결과가 있었습니다. 그런 것으로 봤을 때 정말 짧은 시간이지만 아이들과 함께 진로에 대한 이야기를 지속적으로 해나가는 것, 이런 것들이 굉장히 아이들의 진로 발달에 필요한 부분이다라고 생각을 합니다. 그래서 자유학기제 사실 문제 없는 거 아닙니다. 결함도 있고 부족한 부분도 있습니다. 하지만 사실은 그 부족한 것들을 우리가 계속해서 논의하면서 채워나가야 되는 부분들이고, 또한 앞에서도 이야기한 것처럼 문제가 있는 또는 결함이 있는 자유학기제지만 그거를 우리가 어떻게 활용하느냐에 따라서 사실 그 결과는 달라지게 됩니다. 그래서 저는 개인적으로 이 자유학기제가 앞으로 계속해서 더 많은 논의를 통해서 효과적으로 사용이 된다면, 그렇다면 우리 청소년들이 학교에서 자신들의 꿈과 재능을 발견하고 미래를 설계하는데 좋은 도움이 될 수 있는 여러 가지 중요하고 좋은 도구 중에 하나가 될 수 있을 것이다. 자유학기제가 모든 문제를 해결한다고 생각하진 않습니다. 이것이 좋은 도구 중에 하나가 될 것이라고 생각합니다. 그래서 이건 낭비가 아니라 투자다라고 생각을 합니다. 감사합니다.